This question is from Dharma friend Shu Suqing. After a person passes away, is it appropriate to scatter their ashes into the ocean? The Buddha said, all appearances are illusory, and all conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. Therefore, any way of handling the ashes is fine, as long as it brings peace and comfort to the person or their family. There is no need to be attached to distinctions or forms. This question is from a Dharma friend. When I listen to the Infinite Life Sutra, I feel a deep sense of connection and understanding. But when I listen to the Avatasaka Sutra, I feel lost and confused. Does this mean my level of realization is not yet sufficient? Please give your guidance. Each person has past lives and a present life. Those who study the Buddha's teachings did not begin only in this lifetime. The sutras tell us that everyone has deep and abundant roots of goodness from the past. If you practiced a certain Dharma door in previous lives, you will feel an immediate sense of affinity and joy when you encounter it again in this life. If you did not study it before, it may feel unfamiliar and distant. In your case, it shows that in your past lives you cultivated the Pure Land path and often recited the Infinite Life Sutra. That is why you feel so naturally connected and joyful when hearing it now. But since you did not study the Avatasaka Sutra in the past, it feels somewhat unfamiliar when you encounter it today. This is the reason. From this, we can see the differences in our present affinities arise from the very practices we cultivated through countless past lifetimes. This question is from a Dharma friend. We are volunteers in the kitchen of a Buddhist lay association. While washing rice, we sometimes find rice weevils. If we accidentally kill them, will we have to repay this life debt in the future? This is unintentional, something unavoidable in temple kitchens. It's not just in your association. This happens in nearly all monasteries across mainland China and Taiwan. When washing vegetables or rice, just keep reciting the Buddha's name continuously without interruption and dedicate the merit to them afterward. That is already excellent. Think about it. How many of these small beings, through countless lifetimes, have ever received the dedication of someone chanting the Buddha's name for them? If they can receive the power of such recitation and dedication, it is a rare and fortunate blessing. Through this, they may even be liberated after death and be reborn into a better realm. This question is from a Dharma friend in Shenyang. It is said that when one cuts off even a portion of afflictions, discriminations, and attachments, one's cultivation has reached the state of continuous concentration. What kind of person would be at this stage? Would such a person know it themselves? And does it mean they are certain to be reborn in the Pure Land? When we say cutting off a portion, how much exactly does that mean? That is the key point. The standard differs from person to person, even between the Mahayana and Hinayana teachings. The standards are not the same. Why did the Buddha establish so many different levels? Because the Buddha did not speak Dharma arbitrarily. He spoke according to the conditions and capacities of sentient beings. Different people require different standards. This is something we must clearly understand.
我们自己要明了。
As for what it looks like when one has truly reduced afflictions, discriminations, and attachments, it is actually very obvious. When these lessen, your mental afflictions become lighter. As the Sutras say, when afflictions are light, wisdom increases. You will notice that when listening to the Dharma, you gain more insight.
智慧就增长。最明显的，你听经，你有悟处。
When reading sutras, you begin to understand their meaning more deeply. In daily life, when dealing with people and handling matters,
在日常生活当中，
you will find yourself improving, seeing your past faults and naturally correcting them.
过去
As a result, your mind becomes more open, peaceful, and joyful. That is the difference.
到了，你都能够把它改正过来了。
People with strong attachments and discriminations live with much suffering. Even if they are wealthy, they still feel troubled. Those free from deluded thoughts, attachments, and discriminations live with great joy even in poverty.
生活得很苦啊。
Take Confucius's disciple Yan Hui, for example. Despite living a very poor material life, he was deeply content.
他也非常快乐。
Confucius even sighed in admiration, saying that while most people would be overwhelmed by such hardship, Yan Hui never lost his joy.
他非常快乐。
Why was he so happy? Because his afflictions, discriminations, and attachments were few. His mind was pure. From this, we can see that happiness and suffering have no fixed standard.
他乐的是什么？
As Buddhism teaches, happiness and suffering depend on awakening or delusion. With one moment of awakening, suffering turns into joy. With one moment of delusion, even joy contains suffering. This is a principle we must deeply understand.
觉转苦为乐，一念迷，乐中就有苦。这个道理我们要懂。
This question is from a Dharma friend. When lay practitioners take refuge in the Triple Gem and uphold the 5 precepts, how should we understand the principles of when a precept allows or forbids certain actions and what counts as keeping or breaking it? We must truly understand the principles of when a precept permits, forbids, is maintained, or is violated. If we don't understand them, we should ask more questions and study the sutras carefully. Without this understanding, even if we speak of observing the precepts, we won't be able to practice them properly. Therefore, when receiving precepts, the most important thing is to understand these principles clearly, to know what is allowed, what is prohibited, how to uphold, and what constitutes a violation. When reciting the Buddha's name in the Buddha recitation hall and in daily life practice, how should one do it properly so that it aligns with the practice? The Buddha recitation hall is a place for training to cultivate the habit of reciting the Buddha's name. In daily life, whether we are working, handling affairs, or interacting with others, if we can constantly remember and recite the Buddha in our hearts without interruption, that is called one's practice forming into a single piece. When the mind achieves that unbroken state, we can be confident about our rebirth in the Pure Land. Therefore, the Buddha Recitation Hall is for developing the habit of mindfulness of the Buddha. But the true practice must be carried out in everyday life. This question is from a Dharma friend. If one has taken the precept against killing, would cooking meat dishes for family members be considered breaking the precept? If you prepare meat dishes for your family, but do not personally kill any living beings, it is not considered breaking the precept. In the precepts, there are also cases where certain actions are conditionally allowed, but one must absolutely avoid taking life. The Buddha taught that the meat you buy can be regarded as pure in 3 ways. You did not see the killing, you did not hear the killing, and the killing was not done specifically for you. Buying such meat to offer to your family does not violate the precept. This is clearly stated in the Vinaya. Still, it is best to gradually help your family understand the benefits of a vegetarian diet. Recently, when we visited Kuching, we stayed at Layman Li Jinyu's mountain estate. The property is vast, about 30,000 mu in Chinese measurement, with 16 kilometers of internal roads. It is an enormous estate employing over 300 staff members, all of whom are completely vegetarian. These workers come from over 10 nearby villages. Originally, the surrounding mountains were dense forests, and as the Chinese saying goes, "Those who live by the mountain rely on the mountain, those by the water rely on the water." So they were all hunters. Now their hunting tools have been bought back, and they work at the estate with good wages, allowing them to support their families. As a result, people in that area no longer kill animals. In the beginning, they found vegetarianism difficult to accept, but after 6 months, they became accustomed to it. Now, they are truly happy. Why? Because they are all younger-looking wrinkles have disappeared from their faces. They then realized how many benefits come from eating vegetarian food. At home, when guiding our own family, we should use this same method. Do not try to persuade them directly to stop eating meat. Instead, maintain your vegetarian practice for a year or 2. When your family sees that your health has improved, your complexion is brighter, and your wrinkles have disappeared, they will naturally follow your example. That is how you can guide your whole family toward the path of compassion. I truly admire Layman Li Jinyu. He has influenced people from more than 10 villages and has encouraged them to give up killing. He is an excellent role model for all of us.
你就能度你一家人嘛。所以这个李居士，我觉得他很了不起，他度了10几个村庄。
If one has taken the precept against false speech, but in a situation where telling the truth might cause obstacles, one tells a convenient or harmless lie, does this count as breaking the precept? For example, when coming to Singapore to study under a teacher, one might not dare to tell the family the real reason, fearing opposition, and instead says they are going on a trip.
你本来是旅游嘛，你没有打妄语嘛。
In this case, you are indeed traveling and, along the way, you listen to the teachings. That is not considered lying. Such speech does not harm anyone. The Buddha forbade false speech that causes harm, lies that deceive others and bring them loss or suffering. That is where the fault lies. But if a false statement brings benefit or peace of mind to others, It carries merit rather than offense. It causes no harm and therefore is not a violation of the precept. It is, in fact, a wholesome act. This is one of the cases where a precept allows flexibility. It is an exception, not a breach of discipline.
不叫破戒啊，不叫犯戒。这一位是丹东啊，有一个居士啊是代问的。
Which carries a greater offense, eating threefold pure meat or eating eggs?
的最大。
They are the same in principle. However, there is a difference in context. In China, eating eggs is not very safe in terms of observing the precept, because most eggs laid by hens in rural areas are fertilized, meaning they contain potential life.
所以现在在外国这个蛋的时候，有的人吃这个是可以。
But in many foreign countries, the eggs sold in markets are unfertilized and cannot hatch into chicks, so they do not contain life and may be eaten.
种蛋啊，你要能够买孵小鸡。
If you were to look for fertilized eggs intended for hatching, they would be much more expensive and hard to find. The regular eggs sold in most stores have no life, so that distinction must be made. In rural China, most chickens roam freely and naturally mate, so their eggs have life. Those should not be eaten.
这个我们要加以区别。
As for threefold pure meat, that refers to eating meat only when one did not see, hear, or cause the killing. It is meant for situations of necessity. The Buddha did not teach people to eat meat or encourage it. It is only permitted when unavoidable. We must understand this principle clearly.
教你吃肉，啊，准许你吃肉是不得已的，啊，这个道理要懂得。
What should we do when grains or vegetables contain living creatures?
长了生命，请问怎么处理？
This refers to situations where small insects appear in food or vegetables. When you find them in vegetables, it's easy to handle. Simply remove them when you see them. But the real solution lies in cultivating compassion. When your heart is filled with kindness and compassion, these pests and worms will not harm your crops.
你心地慈悲、善良，这些病害虫不会侵犯你。这一次，我们
We saw this clearly on the mountain at Kuching. When vegetables were first planted, there were many insects.
啊，最初种的时候，虫很多。
Yet both the workers and the owner were compassionate. They did not drive the insects away, but let them eat first.
不去赶它，让它吃。它吃剩下
After the insects had eaten, people harvested what remained. The insects, too, are living beings. They only eat to fill their stomachs.
它不为别的嘛，也是要为吃饱肚子嘛。啊，所以种菜啊，供养这些众生，这些众生也懂得人的意思啊。
By offering vegetables to feed them, people showed kindness, and the insects understood this compassion.
现在这个菜园里面虫很少啊，但是还是有啊，所以看到这个菜拿过来的时候，你仔细一看，还有几个小洞被虫吃的啊，很少了啊，所以
Over the years, the number of insects gradually decreased. Now, only a few remain. If you look closely at the vegetables, you can still see a few small hole signs that the insects have eaten, but they are very few. When we live together peacefully with all beings helping them and allowing them to help us, there is no need for killing. If, during harvesting, we accidentally bring home some insects, we should treat them with sincerity, continue our Buddha recitation practice, and dedicate the merit to them. Doing so is enough.